Welcome back to the Two Average Gyms, the unofficial podcast of the University of Georgia football. As you can see, for those of you watching, we are back at the studio. We're in TF1, home of the Stripe Show podcast and Travis Fulton Golf. Travis, as always, thanks for having us. And if you don't follow Travis, get out and follow him. He is dominating the golf world, one of the top golf podcasts in all of golf in our country. And he's basically on fire. Great guests, great instruction, all kinds of stuff happening. It's a great follow. It's a fun follow, and you learn a hell of a lot about golf. It's great to be back home here in the studio. We've got a great show tonight. We've got a very special guest again. Compliments of the Classic City Collective, our sponsor, who has been with us the last 2 seasons on the Two Average Gyms. And we'll get into that surprise here shortly. But he was a 5-star and I believe a preseason.
And he's also in the waiting room.
Also in the waiting room. So we have a great show tonight. We got to let him in here because he's got to get back to work and practice for the Tennessee game. And then we'll get into all the stuff we're going to talk about tonight on the show. So, Jimbo, why don't you go ahead and fire and let him in?
What does that say up there?
Devices not connected. A little technical.
Normally you just click on it and it lets them in.
Yeah.
I can't read that from here.
You hit the. It says device not connected. Malaki Starks, and then you go up to the right, and you got.
I did that.
Hit the drop down. What do you got? Edit more. Kick from studio. No. Maybe edit more. Go to edit.
Does that say?
Oh, that's edit name.
Should we tell him to flip to the Zoom?
You know what? Let's see. Maybe he's got a. Let me just fire this text out. See where it says they will need to connect the microphone below. You can add them to the screen, to the stream. So they need to connect their mic. So that's what we're waiting on. Here he is.
There we go. All right.
There we go.
Hey, Malaki, can you hear us?
You're on mute, buddy. Hit your mute button.
Can you hear me?
Bingo. We got you.
Perfect.
Welcome to the Two Average Gyms, and thanks for joining us tonight, Malaki. You're coming straight in. We know you're on a short amount of time. You've got the below average gym here. The above average gym is right to my right, who you probably remember from the team. Jimbo.
How you doing?
You can, Malaki, say something real quick again.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got him.
Hear him? Oh, I can't hear him.
Yeah, I got him. Live.
Oh. All right, well, you go ahead then.
Okay.
I can't hear him.
Really?
So, yeah.
Okay. Well, here, come on over.
No, you just go. I mean,
come on over. You take it. Jimbo's got a nice lineup of questions for you, Malaki. Thanks so much for jumping on with. Some technical difficulties here, as you can see.
Hey, Malaki, what's going on?
How you doing, man?
Great. How are you?
Not too bad.
Sorry about all this. I couldn't hear anything on my mic.
No, that's all good.
I know you've got study hall tonight, and I'll give this back to the other gym for some questions. But I don't think we ever met, but I was an equipment manager on the team from 2017 to 2021. So when we beat Alabama in the first national championship.
Right.
But I have loved watching you play, man. It's been so much fun seeing you make an instant impact. Kind of my first question revolves around that. You know, how did it feel coming in your first game? We're playing Oregon. You make that huge interception play. You know, SportsCenter top 10 play is incredible. But how did it feel to come in and not only be able to contribute right away as a true freshman, let alone on a D1 team, let alone the SEC, let alone the Georgia Bulldogs? How was that feeling for you just coming in and contributing right away?
It was kind of like a full circle moment. Because I've been wanting to go to Georgia since I was a little kid, and just for me to have the opportunity to be there and be in the position that I was, and I give a huge shout out to Chris Smith and Dan Jackson. Because when I first got there, they took me under their wing and they showed me how things go and how to do things, and they really set the path for me to walk on. So I'm just very grateful for them, because without them, I wouldn't be. None of this would have ever happened. So I'm just very grateful.
That's awesome. That's such a great story. And I remember watching that game and seeing that interception was just awesome. There's incredible pictures of it. It's so cool. And brings me to my next question, kind of circle back. So you were obviously a very highly recruited player. You know, why Georgia? What went into your decision to play for the Dogs? I know you just referenced that you grew up wanting to play at Georgia, but
Right.
you know, as you get recruited by all these different schools, you know, you never know what could happen. You fall in love with a certain campus, but what went in it for you on like why Georgia?
Georgia just felt like home. Like every time I went on a visit, or like every time I talked on the phone with people over there, the coaches, the GAs, anybody from the staff, it just felt like home. I felt like I was connected with people. I felt like it was a place where I could come in and be developed by the best people who've ever played the game, or the best people who know anything about the game of football. The coaching staff there. I mean, it's just everything's elite about that place, and I wanted to be an elite place to prove that I could be elite with other elites.
That's awesome. And I think that's just a testament to what Coach Smart and his staff have built there of just developing guys, right? I'm sure it's super fun seeing some of your former teammates already playing on Sundays.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fun for me, and I was just one of the student managers. So that's always been one of the cooler things that I've thought about Georgia in terms of like playing in the. So I love to ask the guys this that we've had on. Is there a certain play, and this may be easier to ask an offensive guy, but is there a certain play that you love to make? Like, do you love going up and grabbing an interception, or do you like, you know, making a fit in the run game and just coming down and blowing somebody up?
I'd say I love going to get the ball.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of times the defensive player gets to do that. Because I run fit all the time. It's part of my job. I mean, so is going to get the ball, but it's just a special feeling when you go get the ball and all your teammates celebrate with you. Because it's something that you just work so hard for, and you never know when it's going to happen. So that would probably be my favorite part.
That's awesome. I would have expected that, because and my next question was going to be, you played some offense in high school, right? You played receiver a little bit.
Yeah, I played a lot in high school.
That's did you play kind of everywhere in high school?
Yeah, I moved around a lot of different places. Basically, like wherever they needed me at, really.
Gotcha. Because it's funny, when we had Arian Smith on, Dominic Lovett, and Dylan Bell, they all played everywhere in high school.
Yeah.
And so far, all three of those guys kicked and punted for their high school teams. Did you kick or punt also?
There was like a transition to where I was like in the rotation for kicking and punting. But we had like a kicker and a punter. So I kicked and punted in middle school. When I got to high school, I just kind of stepped out of it.
Gotcha. It was funny when we talked to Arian, I said, you know, like, what was your furthest kick that you ever made? And he said, well, I actually never kicked. They just snap it to me and I'd run around. And I was like, oh, that's a great play. But before I pass you off to the other Jim here for a fun little segment that we call the Quick Six, just wanted to congratulate you on a great season, man. Just saw you were nominated for the Nagurski semifinalist. Congrats. That's phenomenal. It's been a pleasure to watch you play. You're just a great player to watch. I know you're a great leader for our team on and off the field. Thanks for the time tonight, getting to talk to you, getting to meet you. It's been super fun. And I know this is quick. We want to get you to your study hall. But thank you so much. This has been awesome. Go Dogs. And here is the other Jim for the Quick Six.
Yes, sir. Thank you much. I appreciate it.
All right, Malaki, this shouldn't be too tough on you here. We do this with every guest we've got, and it's fun. It's quick. It's whatever comes to your mind as far as answers go. And And so just rapid fire, right? So I'm going to hit you with something, and you hit me right back. Okay, you ready?
All right, let's do it.
All right, here you go. Favorite ice cream?
Vanilla.
Vanilla. Okay, we've had that, Jimbo.
Yeah.
We actually had who said they don't eat ice cream?
Dominic Lovett.
Dominic Lovett doesn't eat ice cream. I can't even believe it. Okay,
Weird.
all right. So if you would pick, if you had to pick, if you were forced to pick another jersey number to wear, what would it be?
If I had to?
If you had to.
Man. Either 2 or 4. One of the
Okay.
one of the two.
So those are your numbers. 24 is
sir.
your number. Like, you don't want to leave that, right?
Yes,
So,
sir.
okay, 2 or 4. Okay. All right, good. All right. How about this? All you guys come on the show. You guys are obviously world-class athletes. You played other sports, right, in your background.
Mhm.
If you were to go play another one right now besides football, what would it be?
Basketball.
Basketball, hands down.
Yes, sir. Basketball is my first love.
Really?
Yes, sir.
Nice. Okay. Okay. All right. And we had a funny some funny answers recently with this question. So we know you guys as a team are really dialed in, and Coach Smart's done a great job evolving over the years since we first got to know him 7, 8 years ago, and he's really created a culture and a bond amongst the players. So I know you're running around with some groups of guys, right? So who's your buddies, and what do you guys like to do for fun?
Really everybody. But mostly the DBs, because that's like who I spend most of my time with.
Sure.
The DBs and the wide receivers. Like me and Dom are pretty close. Me and Rob, I'm close with a bunch of the guys on offense also. But really we just chill. Like our probably favorite thing to do is go to American Deli and just chill, just talk or go play the game at somebody's house and just kind of relax whenever we get a chance.
Yeah, you don't have much time for that. That is funny because Tom had his offensive group, and the offensive guys did this. They all did this thing, and then he had his defensive guys, and they all did this thing. One was playing the games, right, and the other one was going and hanging out at the restaurant. So very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Very cool. All right, so you have had a lot of big moments at UGA. Jimbo referenced a couple of those. You came and started making impact right out of the box, right? I mean, huge. What is your favorite moment on the field at UGA?
If I had to pick my favorite moment since I've been there, it would probably be when we played at South Carolina last year, and I was on the field with Dan, kind of full circle thing. I was on the field with Dan. Me and Dan were together, and Dan had got him a pick. I was just so happy for him, just because of all the work that Dan puts in, that he continues to put in, and just like the brotherliness that he showed me when I first got there. It runs deeper than football. So just to be out there with him and see him do his thing, and this year too, just everybody really. But when Dan got his pick at South Carolina, I was like really close to him when that pick had happened. So that was probably my favorite moment.
Man, that is super cool. I don't know if you can hear this, but that is a really cool answer, and that just tells you something about you guys and your character, how you care for each other as teammates and playing for one another. Man, that is fantastic, Malaki. All right, last one in the quick six. You're a football guy. We're going to take you into the NFL, and we want your Super Bowl prediction.
Oh, okay.
What do you got?
Well, I got a bunch of my teammates on the Eagles, so they automatically got to be there.
Sure.
And that's tough. I'm gonna go. This could be off, but I'm gonna go ahead and put the Chiefs in there. I want a rematch.
A rematch. So there you go. There it is.
Yeah.
I think you're probably right. I think Mahomes is too tough to beat. Andy Reid's too good of a coach, and the Eagles are loaded. And I think they're headed for a collision course rematch. I think you're right on it, man.
Right.
Who knows? I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, but I feel like I feel like that is a high probability. Plus, we got a lot of dogs out there, so you're going to be rooting hard for that. So,
Yes, sir.
listen, buddy, can't thank you enough for coming on, and we wish you the best the rest of the season. We will be at all the games down the stretch when it comes to the postseason. We just finished coaching tackle football ourselves. Our season just ended this past Saturday back here in Jacksonville, so now we're freed up a little bit to get on the road.
Yes,
So we'll see you down the road in the postseason for sure, wherever that may take us. And all the best to you to finish strong, continue being that great teammate and leader that everybody knows inside the building. And now we can tell everybody at the top of the mountain here, top of the outside, everywhere else, that you are the great leader on that squad in and outside of the building. Thanks again for being here. What a pleasure to spend some time with you and kick some butt on Saturday.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate the time.
You got it, man. Get to study hall.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll see you. Go Dogs.
Yeah, go Dogs.
Ladies and gentlemen, Malaki Starks joined us tonight. Let's see if we get Jimbo's microphone working here. Oh, you're on now.
No, my microphone was on. I can hear you.
Oh.
I just couldn't hear him.
Oh. Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Well, he's back. We're back at full strength here, back at TF1. What a treat, Jimbo, to have Malaki on here. The guests we've been having on lately, the streak has been fantastic. We're working our way through the wide receiver room with Dylan and then Arian and then Dom. And now we've got Malaki Starks going to the defensive side of the ball. We're talking absolute studs. And you couldn't hear that answer, unfortunately, about what his favorite moment at UGA was on the field. Okay, so you know all the plays he's made?
Mm-hmm.
He said his favorite moment was when Dan Jackson got his pick in the South Carolina game.
Nice.
I mean, that blows my mind.
That's so cool.
That just tells you something about the chemistry on that team.
Yeah.
It just gets me fired up, man.
He said to me in one of my questions, I forget what the question was, but he mentioned that one of the main things about playing right away was that the help that he got from Chris Smith and Dan Jackson, and they basically paved the way for him to be able to be ready to play right away. So it's really cool. And I think it shows when you see this in any sport that player-led teams are the ones that are more successful. And when your best players are the leaders, and Coach Smart used to say this all the time in practice to our really good players, he'd say, guys, at some point, our best players have to start playing the best. And our best players the last couple of years have played the best.
Yeah.
And I think it's helped from a leadership perspective, from really just the connection that our team has. And, you know, those are the teams that are able to win a game like we did at Auburn, coming down with a, you know, not a freshman quarterback, but a first year starting quarterback. You know, if he didn't have his teammates picking him up, that could have been a situation where the defense is getting mad at the offense, putting extra pressure on them. Because, I mean, we had that. I saw that happen a couple times when I was there. And you can't have intertwined stuff going on between your team. You just can't. You've got to have that connection to be able to win a lot of games, especially on the road in the SEC.
Well, but these guys, time after time, these guys get on here with us, and they are salt of the earth people, just so put together fundamentally, so strong mentally, and just they play for each other. It's just incredible.
Yeah, it is. It's awesome.
And, you know, maybe some of them were like that all the way till they got there. Maybe. But I know that Kirby's had a lot to do with that, and the coaching staff and building that, and the senior leadership, or whoever the current leaders are, and building that culture.
Yep.
So thanks to Classic City Collective once again for another superstar guest in Malaki Starks. If you missed it, go back and watch again. Those guys at Classic City Collective are doing a great job navigating the NIL world that we live in now for all of our athletes at the University of Georgia. And a lot of that focus in the fall is on our football team. And there's a lot you can do to help out, right? A lot of people think, well, I can't really donate. I don't have enough money. Well, they have a club called the 21 Club. Jimbo and I have been a part of it since day one, and it's $21 a month, okay? And that's the donation that goes into the pot there that gets distributed out to all of our athletes. And besides fundraising, you can donate more than that if you like, by the way. besides fundraising, Classic City Collective does an excellent job of working with our student athletes and helping them with what's going to happen after sports, right? What's going to happen if they don't go to a professional league, and how are they going to navigate? They work on stuff with like taxes, investments, et cetera, really coaching them up as they begin to bring in some income through NIL and before they get out into the professional ranks. And then once they get out there, so they have a little bit better platform and they're more grounded, et cetera. So that they do a wonderful job. They're great guys. Patrick Jacobs and Matt Hibbs have led the way since the beginning, and they're working closely with Coach Smart and all the coaches that we've got at the great University of Georgia. And a hell of a program they got running there in general for NIL. So thanks to them for another great speaker this week. Jimbo, we've got a lot to cover today. We're going to talk about the Ole Miss game, which was fantastic showing by our squad. We want to talk about some action around the players, a little bit about our streaks. Obviously preview the Tennessee game coming up. And, the college football playoff rankings came out last night. I'm going to follow Coach Smart's lead. We don't care where we're ranked. It doesn't really matter. We're not going to boast about it, talk about it, whatever. We're going to stay focused. Kirby does a great job for the entire program and fan base of keeping everybody focused on the next game, and that's it. So, Jimbo, let's get into this Ole Miss game. We talked last week about a lot of different things, both of us. Tell me what you saw on Saturday.
I think I saw probably our lines of scrimmage on both sides of the ball have their best game of the year, especially the offensive line. Ole Miss was ranked 7th in the country in sack rate. And, Carson Beck didn't even get touched.
Yeah.
So, and also the run game. We ran for over 300 yards and we threw it for over 300 yards in like 60-something plays. So we were basically averaging 10 yards per play, which was incredible. And I think once you saw us, settle in on defense, because, Lane Kiffin will normally get his points. And opening drive touchdown, yet again, we go down. Everybody, always talks about the scripted drives, which is true. That happens. We have not been used to that. But if giving up a touchdown on the first drive means that we continue to win by double digits, I'm totally fine with that happening every week. I really don't care. But I saw the line of scrimmage play very well and just a clean game. There was never really any, there was no negative plays like we talked about. And it didn't look like we were ever really out of sync on offense. And the first drive, we had some young backers in there that made adjustments. And I think once we got in sync on defense, they didn't really do anything.
So when we talked last week, we were kind of all over this game in a lot of ways about what we thought was going to happen, needing the sacks to get to them to mix it up. And then I felt really strong that Ladd was going to have a big day. I was looking at my notes here. Dejan and Ladd were two guys I said were going to stand out. And if Brock is in and he gets some looks, does he get looks or is he a decoy? Great to see him get in the end zone. But in fact, when you look at the zone defense they brought, right, we know that we can burn a zone pretty well, especially with guys like Ladd and Dejan, I think, running and catching the ball in the backfield. So we were spot on with that stuff. I thought the game was going to be closer. I didn't want to put up a big number. I had 2 score predictions, couldn't decide which one to go with, 38-20 and 35-23. We handled them. Absolutely handled them every which way. And, it's great to see. I think what's happening is each week has gone by and forget about what everybody's saying, right? Like Coach Smart says, who cares? Who cares about rankings? Who cares what people say? But we have been evolving week over week over week. Our guys have gone down with injuries. We've figured out ways to play without them. We continue to win. The win streaks are unbelievable right now. Kirby's setting some marks that, really very impressive, all-time, close to all-time stuff. But I think we get better. We're getting better every week, and now we're getting healthier, right? Ladd came back. Brock has gotten back early.
Mims
came back last week, and Kendall Milton's looking healthier than has looked in a long time. He had his best game ever.
For sure. I agree.
And the other guy said last week that was going to get in the mix was Ra-Ra, and Ra-Ra did get in the mix. And I felt like the zone would allow that, and he'd be able to get in there and mix it up. So overall, I think just a rock solid win. You got a top 10 team comes in, you smack them, right in the mouth, and now we move on to the next game, Tennessee. And I think we got out of there pretty unscathed injury wise.
Yeah, Julian Humphrey got hurt, but it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
He's very important, and he's been playing great football.
Yeah.
Let me see.
C.J. Allen played a hell of a game.
He did.
Led the team in
Raylan
tackles.
Wilson did too.
Yep.
But I mean, Julian Humphrey, hopefully we get him back. I don't know the status on his injury, but
it's actually, I think it's going to be a little while. I saw Kirby's presser, and I think it's going to take a little while for him to come back.
That'd be the only thing. He was playing really good football. But yeah, I think, all in all in that game, the key to late season football is if you're an elite team, you continue to get better every single week. And I think a lot of teams in October, November, when you're really hitting, the tough part of your schedule, when it's conference game after conference game after conference game, a lot of teams hit a wall and they don't necessarily improve. And the championship teams are the ones that do improve.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've improved every single week. And I think also our Missouri win looks a lot better, right? Like Missouri is a good football team.
Quality team.
They're ranked in the top 10.
Yeah.
Again, after us beating them, they fell out. They're back in after a huge win against Tennessee.
Yep.
And we'll get to Tennessee in a sec. But Missouri is a quality win. And I think a lot of people looked at that game. I think the point spread was 14.5. We win by 9. Good teams win, great teams cover. But Missouri is a quality win. Ole Miss, quality win. They're still a good team. We just, not that we woke up and finally played a good game, but we just played clean football. And to your point, we had a lot of our guys back. I think that was the first time all year that Ladd and Brock were in the lineup at the same time, fully healthy or close to fully healthy.
I wouldn't even say they're fully healthy, but good enough to be on the field anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get into, while we're talking about players right now, there was a flip today from our least favorite place, Florida, and a 4-star who flipped to Georgia.
Top 75 player in the country.
Right, could end up with a higher ranking.
Yeah.
And there's a video out there that our man Brooks Austin posted of this guy. He's 6'5", 315. How do you say his first name?
Nasir Johnson.
Okay, Nasir. Okay.
That's how I'm going to say it.
Okay. I wasn't sure it was Nasir or Nazar or what, but Nasir sounds better. So Brooks, who was a great follow, by the way, if you don't follow him, the guy is dialed in, and this is what he does for a living, and he's damn good at it. He put a video out of this guy doing a, I don't know, double frontwards flip hamstring thing. The guy's 6'5", 315, Jimbo. Is that what? Yeah. And it's remarkable. And it reminded me of when Malik Herring used to do that on the field after a game. And I think this guy's even bigger than Malik by about 20 pounds. I think Malik was about 290, maybe 25 pounds heavier.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah. But it's incredible. You see this just massive mammal start doing flips and hamstrings or whatever you call them. And so if you have a chance to go online, check that out. We got a great flip, good win for us. Florida remains in sort of a spiral. We'll see how they finish out their season. They may not win a game the rest of the year, Jimbo.
They play Missouri and Florida State. I don't think they do.
Yeah.
They play Missouri on the road and then Florida State at home.
The only thing they got going for them is they've got nothing to lose, right? They've got nothing to lose. So they could go out and have it be their Super Bowl and everybody plays their best game of the year. Maybe that's still not good enough, but that's the only thing they got going for them.
Yeah. And to kind of pour a little salt in the wound for Florida, they had the number 3 recruiting class, or maybe even number 2, for a long time. And since then, they have lost 4 guys this week that have been committed since June. We got Nasir Johnson, Jamonta Waller flipped to Auburn. They had a guy just flat out decommit, and then looks like they're going to lose another guy to Ohio State if he has not flipped already. So when this happens, the tough thing for a coach like Billy Napier is I don't think he went into a great situation. He is known to be a good recruiter. And if you don't make a bowl game, that's not going to hold your class together. And they got to win one out of these 2 games. And I don't see them winning one of the 2 games. So I don't know. I don't think Billy Napier should be fired this year by any means. I mean, you got to give the guy more than 2 years. But I think as a Florida fan, you probably would have wanted to see more progression in year 2. And you look at it, they're 4-6 right now, I think. Or they're 5. So, because they only need one more win. I was thinking about this. So, I think everybody was surprised when they beat Tennessee earlier in the year. Let's say Tennessee wins that game, and then Florida did do a good job on the road against South Carolina. That was a big comeback win for them. But let's say they drop that game, then they'd only have 3 wins. That is, that's how close the margin of error is, or even they could be 4-6 right now. Like the South Carolina game, South Carolina blew that game.
Yeah.
If they hang on, Florida's 4-6 right now. And when's the last time they had a 4-win season?
I don't know, but it's
crazy. I love it too. But it's just crazy to show the margin of error. They did win those games, which is, kudos to them. But they were that close from maybe only having a 3 or 4 win season.
Yeah, it's a mess down there. And the recruiting, vacancy thing is going to be a real issue because the fan base is just going to lose their minds.
Yeah, because that's the only thing they have going for them right now is recruiting.
Yeah, they have the facilities, they got the tradition, they got. So there's stuff there.
Right? I'm saying currently though, that's the only positive thing that they have. Yeah.
So let's get into Tennessee. Tennessee Preview Week brought to you by the Legacy Group. Our friends at the Legacy Group have been part of the show for the last 2 years, and our buddy Trip Curley is the man at DGD, and these guys, they operate, run, and own the Mellow Mushrooms and Burrito Galleries and the French Pantry here in town in Jacksonville. They got a lot of restaurants. They're very good at what they do. Not only is it high quality, great food, it's phenomenal vibe, great service, the whole package. So go out and see those guys if you're local. If you're not local and you're visiting town for Georgia, Florida, or any other reason, get out and see these folks. They're great people. Mellow Mushroom Burrito Gallery and French Pantry, courtesy of the Legacy Group. Thank you guys again for being a part of the show. You guys are the sponsor of the Tennessee Preview this week. So, Jimbo, Tennessee is coming off of kind of a funky season where I think there were some high hopes. They lost some big-time talent to the NFL. They had a big injury, right, to their best receiver earlier in the year. And they kind of moved through the season. They got a couple losses, then they get smacked by Missouri. And that game was, to me, for them, that's a debilitating loss. They absolutely got creamed. So I'm shocked at that game. That was the game. The points per the game was 1.
Yeah, it was. I think also. It's a debilitating loss. I think also their loss to Alabama was a debilitating loss because you have that 20-7 lead at halftime.
Yeah,
and they beat Alabama last year, but they were 0-13 going into last year or something. And you're on the road. You're completely outplaying Alabama. Missed some opportunities in the red zone, and then Alabama, in 2 seconds is up 24-21, and they just blow them out. And so I think that probably took some wind out of their sail. This Missouri game definitely did, and they just got out physical in that game. They got out executed, and their offense is not a pass first offense this year. They're a way better rushing attack,
which is shocking.
They have good running backs.
They have the 9th best rushing team in the country.
Yeah. Jalen Wright is a solid running back. They've got a couple good backs, but that's kind of, it's similar like to Ole Miss in a way where everyone thinks they're throwing the ball all around the yard, but they run the ball very effectively too.
Yeah.
So it's different than last year. And like you said, they don't have the receivers like they did last year. Last year they had a legit, 2 or 3 NFL wide receivers, which is very hard to get in college football. And in the past, when we've seen it, LSU in 2019, they dominated. And so receiver talent is very hard to get collectively like that. And I definitely think the Missouri loss was tough for them because, if they somehow found a way to beat Missouri, and let's just say somehow we lost to Ole Miss, I mean, this would be the SEC's championship game.
Right.
And they would have all the momentum. We would be the ones sputtering, but it's completely backwards. And anybody that wanted that, I mean, you see us put up 52 and blow out Ole Miss, and then you get blown out by Missouri, they definitely, the season's over for them. They'll go to a bowl game, but if they lose to us, they're at 7-4. They'll beat Vandy the following week, 8-4, and like go to the Music City Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just not, and it's a little bit of a regression from last year because they won the Orange Bowl, beat Alabama, had a great season, ended up being ranked number 1 in a CFP ranking at one point. But, I really don't think they just have those guys on the team this year. And I don't think Joe Milton has lived up to his expectations.
He is definitely not as good.
And
not nearly as good of an athlete and got with his feet as Hendon Hooker was.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I think he's a similar athlete. He just has no accuracy or touch when he throws the ball. He can actually run it pretty effectively, I think. He misses wide open guys by, it's not even like the ball's hitting their hands. It's going way over their heads. And that leads to a lot of his turnovers. And also they run a lot of like hitches on the outside or slants. It seems like they run a slant every play. And when you airmail those, I mean,
you got a lot of picks.
A lot of picks. Hendon Hooker threw a pick 2 years ago when we played in Knoxville. They were kind of driving on us, taking the momentum, and Darion Kendrick had an interception. I mean, it literally was a wide open hitch route that we were giving it to him. You know how you sometimes just let the offense have the 5-yard hitch route? And Hendon Hooker completely airmailed, I think it was Cedric Tillman or Jalen Hyatt, and it went straight to DK. And that completely changed the course of the game. And so when you have a quarterback that just can't execute in their offense where it's spot throws, like we talk about all the time, when you can't make the spot throws, I mean, that leads to a lot of bad stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Tips, overthrows lead to interceptions. So I don't think Joe Milton's lived up to his expectations.
I don't think he's been developed as well as I would have thought. Right. I think you'll read this. He's still staring down receivers. I think he is not as good of a runner as I thought he was. And the overthrows, I mean, all you got to do is watch a little bit of tape.
Yeah.
And you can see.
I do think about the staring down of the receivers, though. I think that's just how their offense works. Like they spread you out, and it's a lot of pre-snap. You see you have space and leverage over here. I'm going to throw it over there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not very complex on sitting back there, going through your progressions like a quarterback normally would. And because I watched the highlights from 2022 when we played Hendon Hooker, and it was kind of the same thing where he'd drop back and looking at one guy, boom, would complete the pass. But I think that's just how their offense works. It's not very complex. It's pretty gimmicky. And the quarterback does not have to do a lot of thinking, is my point.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a pro-style offense. So I think that's probably part of the reason why he may be staring guys down. I just think that's how they do it.
Yeah. And I really expected more from Josh Heupel. I would have thought at this point, I know second year, I know he lost some talent, but I just felt like he came in with this sort of elite offensive mind. And I don't know. I just don't think it's panned out as well as they thought it would. Now, some of that may be the Willies and the Joes, as they say, not the X's and the O's, but we'll see. I mean, an 8-4 Tennessee season is definitely not what they were looking for.
No. And I think it's going to be a lot tougher for them when we go into next year in this expanded SEC format where the top 2 teams make it to the SEC championship. And we talked about it earlier, our schedule, we've got a tough ass schedule, but
our schedule is brutal.
I mean, Tennessee is still going to play us in Alabama every year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even if you mix up the other opponents, it's not getting that much easier.
Right.
So I think this was kind of maybe the last 2 years. If I'm a Tennessee fan, I would have thought, man, it's the last 2 years of the East. Would be great to get to Atlanta at least one of those years when we have some elite players. And they played us. And that's basically why that happened.
Yeah.
So I agree. And I think Josh Heupel is a great offensive coach, but I also think it's just me and my buddies talk about it. It's just such a gimmicky offense where it's actually not that complex when you look at it. Like, I think Lincoln Riley has some gimmicky stuff, but I think there's also a lot of complex stuff in his offense. And they do a ton of shifts and motions. And Tennessee, what makes them complex is they go so fast.
Yeah.
If they did not move fast, they would not be very successful. And that's just how Heupel likes it, and it works to an extent. But I think if we get a couple 3-and-outs and their defense is on the field for 20 minutes, that's not, I mean, their defense is tired, our defense is rested. That's not going to help anybody.
I think we're going to dominate their line. I don't think their offensive line is that good.
Mm-mm.
And if we control that run game and make Joe Milton beat us, I mean, I think that's the recipe. I mean, I hate to make it overly simple, but I think that's it. And then I think it could be. I think
that's it.
It could be ugly.
Yeah, and I think that's the schematic way to look at this. I don't even know if I use that word correctly, but I think that's the game plan. I should say this. That's the game plan way to look at this. I think the only other key to victory is just handling the environment, handling that road environment, because it is loud. And I mean, they've got nothing to lose. Like, they would love nothing more than to derail part of our season, end all of our streaks, whatever. Yeah. So handling that environment, Carson Beck has handled every environment he's been put in this year. And, if you can handle Auburn, then I think he can handle Tennessee. Yeah. I don't know which one I would say is tougher to play in. I just know they're both tough-ass places to play.
Yeah.
So I think if our team can collectively handle that and take the crowd out of it early, like the last 3 times we've done since we've been there. I mean, 17 was 41-0, worst home loss in Tennessee history. It was empty by the third quarter. 19 was another blowout. That was the night game where Eric Stokes blew up the quarterback from the corner blitz. That was another. They scored the first touchdown in that game on a slant and go, actually. And then we just throttled them. And then 2 years ago, I think it was 41-17. And again, we really controlled that game going in. I think it was 17-10 at halftime or 14-10 at halftime, and we just opened it up. So I think if we can take the crowd out of it early, and like we always talk about, take the hope out of it early, because anything
in the first half.
Yeah, anything can happen on the road in college football. I mean, case in point, we probably should have lost that Auburn game, but we ended up rallying and got through it. So the margin of error on the road is just so much thinner than it is at home for this very reason. I mean, it's very tough to operate in an environment that gets as loud as Neyland Stadium. So if we can do what you said on the field and handle kind of the off the field, environment there, I think it's going to be a successful day for us.
So before we get out of here, we got to talk score predictions.
Yeah. I think we got to talk a little bit also about coaching carousel and some of our streaks.
Okay, so let's do coaching carousel first.
Yeah.
And then we can go streaks and then score predictions, and then we'll wrap it up for everybody as we move into Tennessee weekend here on the Two Average Gyms podcast, right here at TF1, home of Travis Fulton and the Stripe Show podcast. All right, so if any of you live under a rock, then you probably haven't seen what's going on in the college football coaching carousel. But for all of you that are in front of your TV, on your phone during football season like we are, going crazy because it's the best time of year, you've seen Jimbo Fisher's been fired. Zach Arnett's been fired.
Chip Kelly's going to be fired.
Chip Kelly's, I think, most likely being fired. But we know those two in the SEC, so the thing's already started, right? We're still have a few games left. Some of those teams may make a bowl, right? So they have extra stuff, postseason stuff, opportunities. The Jimbo Fisher thing, $77 million buyout. So he's going to get paid $77 million, Jimbo, to not work.
26 grand a day.
I mean,
until 2031.
To not work.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
Everybody's dream job should be a fired football coach.
Yeah. Well, as long as you're at the elite level.
Yeah. But still, I mean, even if you're not, you still got a buyout of some sort.
Yeah.
So you're getting paid to not work. It's not going to be $77 million, but like you still get paid.
Yeah. So Jimbo's gone. Texas A&M is a mess. I don't know who would want to go in there and fool with that. There's a lot of money.
I think it's a
good facilities,
great job.
Good facilities. But the program, even with bringing in a Jimbo Fisher, with having the recruiting, they're just, now you bring in Texas and Oklahoma into the SEC as well. Your longtime rivals there, and that's tough. Those programs are ascending, and A&M's going the wrong way. So that's a tough gig there. Be interesting to see who ends up there. There's a lot of people that are talking about names that could go there. Mississippi State, Zach Arnett, he came in after they fired what's his name?
No. Mike Leach died.
Oh, that's right. Mike Leach died. He was the interim right away. That's right.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. I knew it was a automatic, insert, right? Because he was already there. And actually, I thought he was going to do a pretty good job. He certainly had tough shoes to follow, and that's a tough gig anytime you got to take over in a situation like that. But there's going to be a lot more, ladies and gentlemen. A lot more people are on the hot seat. There's no question about it, right, Jimbo?
Yeah, I think a couple of people in the SEC. I think Sam Pittman's seat is getting a little warm. I could see him. I don't think they'll can him at the end of this year, but he certainly did not perform this year at a high level. I think there were some talks of Shane Beamer leaving South Carolina to go to Mississippi State because his best friend is the athletic director. His wife's a Mississippi State alum, but I don't think he does.
What do you think's a better job there?
South Carolina.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't think he does.
I can't stand him, so
but I think I already said it. I don't think Napier should be fired, but if going 5-7, and if they lose this recruiting class, I don't know what they do, because they're not a very patient fan base, and no fan base in college really is. But it'll be interesting. I mean, Dabo's been rumored to maybe be linked to A&M. Dan Lanning, the UTSA coach, Jeff Traylor, who's a young up-and-coming guy. Schumann a couple times. I don't think they would. I think they want a head coach like that's already been a head coach. I think Schumann's appeal is literally, I think he will be a great head coach, but I think Schumann will get a look because of what Kirby Smart has done.
He'll get that look. Plus, he'll get the look as what Dan Lanning's done, right? Because you're going to say, okay, we take a Kirby disciple, put him at Oregon, and they're knocking on the door of the playoff, right? So
I think they're getting in too.
Yeah. Well, I think they'll beat Washington and get in. I agree with that. What should be interesting, because if how things shake out with us and everybody else. So if we were happen to have a problem, there's all of a sudden a bunch of one-loss teams sitting there, and who gets in? Probably the guys that have the rings on their fingers for the championship.
Yep, I would think so. And also with Oregon, if their only loss was to Washington and then they beat them, kind of erases, similar to what happened with us when we made the playoff for the first time, where our one loss was to Auburn. We turn around 3 weeks later and beat them.
SEC
kind of avenges our only loss. Like, you have a head-to-head win against the team you lost to.
That also helps that it's in the championship game.
Yeah, that's the only way.
But basically, if it were to happen to us, and for I'm sure that you fans are watching and listening, you're probably thinking along these lines, like, so what happens if we go to Atlanta and we just can't get it done in Atlanta, right? We've got this whatever old hex that we finally got rid of with Alabama, but it was in a different stadium. So we go back to Atlanta and we play Alabama, and let's say we lose that game. Where's Alabama ranked? Right? If you have Florida State still undefeated and say Michigan or Ohio State is undefeated, they're both in.
Mm-hmm.
Alabama's SC champ, they're in. Oregon's Pac-12 champ, they're in.
Texas would get in over Alabama. They beat Alabama head-to-head. That's what the committee values most.
Even though Alabama would have beaten Georgia and Texas doesn't have their quarterback?
Texas has their quarterback.
Oh,
he's back.
Oh, is he?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
And they'd be a conference champion. Only loss was by 2 points on a neutral field to Oklahoma. And Texas is still ranked higher than Alabama in
one slot
the rankings. So I think they get in. So
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think we have to run the table personally.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think we get in if we lose that game.
Well, if for that to happen, a lot of things would have to happen.
What do you mean?
You'd have to have both Michigan and Ohio State have a loss. You'd have to have Florida State have a loss to Louisville or something.
Oh, for us to get in and not win the SC championship? Yeah.
You'd have to have a lot of
people would have to lose.
Yeah.
But if every conference champion is a one-loss team and we're a one-loss team, there's going to be one-loss conference championship teams that get left out.
It won't be us.
Well, we wouldn't have a conference championship is my point.
Oh, I see.
I'm saying if it doesn't go our way. If we win, let's say we run into something this weekend, don't win. If we beat Georgia Tech, beat Alabama, we're in.
I agree.
So,
which if you think about it, kind of doesn't make sense. Like a loss to Tennessee should hurt us more than a loss to Alabama.
Right. But I think it's more about the conference championship helping us more.
It is. And also the win against
Alabama. Yeah. So I agree. It'll be interesting. I think this is the first year in a while where we're this far into the season and we don't know who's going to be in the playoff.
Yeah, this weekend there's some shakeup potential. But I think that Alabama, if they run the table and beat us, I think they could be ranked ahead of Florida State.
No way if Florida State's undefeated.
I think they could. You look at
Texas would have to be above Florida State. They're not going to put Bama ahead of Texas.
If Texas wins out, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you'd have to move both of them over Florida State, and they're not going to move them above a undefeated Florida State team.
Yeah, then Alabama will be in the catbird seat again, like they have been in the past. Sometimes when they're 3 or 4 and they smack somebody right out of the box. Because I feel like the eyeballs are getting on to Alabama, where they're starting to play really good football, and they have really improved week to week to week. And their loss was months ago. So that's why I was saying I think they could be ranked ahead of Florida State. It obviously depends upon the rest of the stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah, but I don't think if Florida State's undefeated, they're going to be ranked above every other one-loss team.
Do you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's no reason to. Florida State's got a bunch of quality wins. LSU throttled LSU when LSU was fully healthy. LSU didn't have any healthy defensive backs playing Alabama. Florida State won at Clemson. I know it's a down year for Clemson, but that's still looked at as a good conference win.
I think if you look at the wins, though, Alabama's got 3 or 4. If they run it out, they'll have 3 or 4 or 5 compared to one or 2. Clemson is,
I just don't think you could ever put a one-loss team in front of an undefeated Power 5 team. There's just no way.
Yeah.
And Texas would have to jump them too, which that's not going to
unless
happen.
They lost.
Yeah, if Florida State loses, Alabama.
Unless Texas loses.
Yeah, if Texas loses again, then they won't be ahead of it. But I still don't think. I don't think there's any way. There's just no way they would do that.
Okay.
It's the same. It's the argument like when it's also the argument of like who deserves to be there. You know, like when TCU made the playoff, I think anybody would have put Alabama in as a better team, but they had 2 losses. And TCU only had 1 loss, so they deserved to get in. Like the committee doesn't look at it objectively like we would, or like odds makers would.
Yeah, I don't think I think there's a big difference between a 1-loss team and a 2-loss team than there is from a 0 team to a 1-loss team, undefeated team to a 1-loss team.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make the point. Like you're saying, Alabama, because of the eye test, because they're playing football, better football, they've got good wins. Like the playoff committee does not. They seed it almost by like most deserving in resume. Think about why Ohio State was ranked above us for a couple weeks. I don't think they were necessarily playing better football, but they won at Notre Dame and they beat Penn State.
Well, usually this stuff has a way of working itself out, so there's very little drama when you get down to the end.
Yeah.
We'll see. This
seems
like it's set up to be a little crazy.
I think this year will be some drama.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, I still don't think Bama's getting put ahead of Florida State if they're undefeated.
Yeah, it's kind of a hot take, but I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. A lot of things would have to happen for that to happen. But anyway, all right, let's go score predictions here for this weekend, Jimbo. Spread is 10.5, I believe.
Yep. I'm gonna keep it in the 40s since that's what we like to do when we play at Tennessee. I'm gonna go 42-17.
36-17 for me.
Love it.
Yeah, I think we cover. I think we tie the streak for 28 wins in a row. We'll tie.
What's that streak?
We'll tie Alabama's streak of an SEC team. That's the record of 28 wins in a row for an SEC team. And then there's a few other streaks out there. So I like the Dogs. I think we cover. I think we're healthy. I think we're going to play well. I don't think Tennessee's as good as people think. They will show out early. They'll try to be disruptive early and try to have that hope that we talk about, Jimbo, so we cannot turn the ball over in the first half. I think if we don't turn it over in the first half, everything else we said is laying there for us to hit them with the scores that we're talking about.
Yeah, I think I think it's going to be a fun afternoon. Last time we'll have a 3:30 CBS matchup in the regular season. Last time we're playing Tennessee as Eastern Division rivals, and I mean I think it will be a good afternoon for the Dogs.
Dogs are 10-0, ladies and gentlemen. We're trying to get to an 11-0 record before we get into Thanksgiving week. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you to our sponsors, Classic City Collective tonight and the Legacy Group. And we hope you guys have a great rest of the week. Look out for the interview with Malaki Starks. It was on the front part of our show tonight. It was fantastic. Boy, there's some stuff in there that you're really going to like if you didn't catch the beginning of the show. Jimbo will have this out tomorrow probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, great. All right, everybody have a great week and go Dogs.
Go Dogs.